Good morning, and thank you for joining us for Sales and Marketing Fry Talks. Every second Friday, we share insights, best practices, and anecdotes from technology companies. Gartner recently found that B2B buyers spend about 45% of their time on independent research, while only 17% on meetings with potential suppliers. Under these conditions, marketing content plays a critical role in helping buyers make a decision. Thus, many companies rush to produce tons of content and make it available online, hoping to catch prospective buyers. However, only really few of them, manage to build long-lasting interest and trust from the desired audience. Why so? And how to make marketing content work for your reputation and business development? What are practical do's and don'ts? How to measure and what is the outcome to expect from marketing content? These are the questions we would like to figure out today. And for that reason, we have Olga Olifirenko, the digital marketing manager at Ciklum, together with us. So welcome, Olga.
Welcome. Great to have you.
Hi.
Ciklum is a leading global digital services and software engineering company with almost 4,000 employees worldwide, serving Fortune 500 companies. And Olga has hands-on experience on defining and executing digital marketing and content activities at this great company across UK, the US, Scandinavia, and DACH region in Israel. So therefore, we're really looking forward to learn from Olga today. And maybe before we start, Olga, could you maybe share a little bit more about yourself? Because audience probably don't know everything.
Hi, Andres and Rollins. Hi, everyone who's watching us today. Thanks for having me today. It's such a pleasure. It's been a while since we last met with you and made some cool projects together. So I'm working as the digital marketing manager at Ciklum, but before I joined this beautiful company, I used to work for Microsoft for almost 4 years in the role of partner channel marketing manager. I was responsible for all up marketing activities throughout partner ecosystem in Ukraine, Georgia, Moldova, and Belarus. And trust me, that was such an outstanding experience. But I was always keen to work with customers closer because I spent totally almost 7 years in the B2B segment. The topic of tomorrow's technologies, the way they change people's lives, the way they redefine industries was of great interest. So I joined the great team at Ciklum, and now I'm enjoying all opportunities, learning new things, and leveraging the current knowledge. And yeah, the topic of our today's session is just great content. Everyone talks about content, isn't it?
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, and I think also we in our professional lives now use content a lot, and in a sense, also this kind of live event is a content as well.
Yeah, but maybe just a couple of other words about yourself, because I know you a little bit more than maybe some of our people here. And I think another interesting fact, what you didn't mention about yourself, is that you are probably one of few people I know, at least, who are reading really a lot of books. You even run a book club, right? Book club in Kiev. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
that's true. I'm a bookworm. You can call me like that. I love reading, and I love organizing cool events around discussion of great books. Not only in Kiev, because virtually nowadays it's possible to connect people from other countries and regions. So we have colleagues from Latvia, Lithuania, from Kazakhstan, from Georgia joining us on our book talks. So I'm inviting everyone join. The details will be posted after the session.
It's highly recommended as well. I have, at least I remember, I inspired, to read some. I was inspired by your posts and shares about some of the books, and they were really very useful professionally and otherwise. So really, if you guys also looking for good advice on what to read, follow Olga on social networks, and you will get a lot of interesting insights on that topic as well. But let's come to the topic of today, which is about the marketing content. And as you, Olga, mentioned, that everyone talks about content and marketing content and so on and so forth. But what exactly do we understand by marketing content, and why it became so important recently? Let's try to start with this. What do you think?
Start from the roots. Well, actually, the word content or content strategy or content planning stopped being purely marketing long ago. With the boost of social media, microblogs, networks, everyone now not only talks about content, but produces content. Let's be honest, even teenagers use several applications for planning their Instagram content. But coming back to the roots, the biggest problem of businesses, if we talk about business, is that they can have great content plans without having a solid content strategy. What do you think? What do you think about the difference between content and content strategy?
Yeah, I think let's try to understand actually, but what the solid strategy actually means, and what would be the minimum strategy for companies operating in our countries, like not very big, usually having a lot of resources. Roland, what do you think? Where you would start? How you would define the good strategy for the content marketing? Where to start?
Yeah, well, I would say that good strategy, and it's always measure of success of strategy, is can it be implemented or not. So I think in many cases, simple strategy is the best approach. And I would say that the minimum strategy or the minimum what companies need to consider for regarding content, I think, is several things. And first of all, it's an audience. So whom they want to address with their content, who are those people? Let's try to describe them. Are they business decision makers? Are they technical decision makers? Are they users, influencers, etc.? And the second, I think, which is very important thing, is just to try to think in what stage they are, where's their head, what they are thinking about, what are their pains, or where they are in decision-making process. Because and there's excellent tool for that. It's called customer journey, which we also quite often use in strategy projects, which allows to plan this buying process. And the third thing I think also is more relates to specific piece of content, but I think it's very valuable to think what you want your audience to think, what you want them to know, how do you want them to feel, and at the end, super important, what kind of action you want them to take. And if you have these kind of answers, I think you're pretty much set to start creating a content.
Yeah, I fully support this idea. Actually, there are some elements of the content and content strategy in marketing that should be mandatory, took into consideration while developing a content strategy.
Yeah, I think the key, what Roland mentioned, is really to understand, first of all, really the concept of customer journey, because what we observed a lot that, somehow this part is overlooked, and we just see, companies doing, their content for sake of doing. And here I would like to maybe think of, all of us about what are these pitfalls, what typically we see companies executing, content strategy. Olga, what from your experience you see like as a main issues?
Well, speaking about pitfalls, since our session is called do's and do nots, the first do not from me would be do not mix up your content strategy and your content plan. A plan is one of your content strategy implementation tools, an important one, but not the same, versus the strategy itself is an ongoing process of transforming your business goals and objectives into a plan that actually uses content as the main means of achieving those goals. And there is no need to talk about the need of content planning, content governance, content audit, or having an editorial calendar until you have a clear idea of the goal that you can map your content to. If you don't have it, it's another pitfall. It's not a strategy, it's just the content. Whether you want to create content for the sake of creation, that's the question.
Yes. Roland, what do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think the big question before getting into content is answering a simple three character but extremely profound question: why? Why do you want to create this content, and what do you want to achieve with this content? Because there may be many goals. Like one can be optimizing content for SEO and just to drive traffic to your website, right? Completely another goal is, let's say, to explain to your prospective buyers why you are competent to deliver certain solutions. Another thing is making sure your target audience is aware actually of certain pain or certain problem that your solution can solve. So these are quite different, quite distinctive things, and it's better not to mix them together. So buyer's journey is a great tool
Yeah,
to plan those.
exactly. I just wanted to mention that
Yeah.
you always have to refer to the buyer journey. So and then plan your strategy and plan your execution actually based on that. And I think when it comes to the goal, to why, it's also important to understand that there are two types of goals. One is that what you as a company want to achieve, right? And secondly, what actually customer is looking for, because you have to help them to achieve their goals. And that is another perspective to look at it. I think another pitfall, what I maybe would like to mention from my side, it's an empty content, on very light content. And as I mentioned in the very beginning, that so many companies, individuals, like producing content today, that there is no lack of content whatsoever, but there is lack of quality, lack of insights in the content what is available. And I think that is another, let's say, perspective to look at and consider for your marketing content strategy. How can you become better serving customers from insights, from some useful information and data point perspective, helping them.
Yesterday, we were discussing a book called Decoding Marketing by Phil Barden with one Ukrainian IT company. And there was a quote which I liked: people do not buy what you sell, they buy why you sell it. And here comes the central, the message architecture of why. So you have to think what your audience is talking about.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
So,
but I wanted just to share that I think Olga, what you mentioned about specific audience, that's also the key, and we have seen again and again in our own experience that one of the best ways to actually get content ideas or understand content strategy or even prepare the full go-to-market strategy is actually talk with customers, have interviews, how them actually share what exactly their pains are, concerns, etc. And then creating content becomes just so much easier. How do you, Olga, approach content creation? Do you conduct interviews with buyers or perhaps your internal experts?
Thank you for the question. That's a good one. Well, actually, in Ciklum, we like we call it internally no bullshit marketing. So we try to produce only expert content, and while producing the content, we pay attention to 4 key elements of the content in digital marketing, or 4 key pillars, if I may, that encompasses the content strategy. So it's information, context, medium, and the form. When we speak about information, it's the message that you want to amplify or your audience to hear. It can be interactive, it can be engaging, factual, practical, informing, or the combination of those. And when we speak about the context, here you should ask such question as: who is my target audience? What do I want my content to amplify? What is the content supposed to help me and my reader accomplish? And what is the call to action? The next is the medium. The medium stands for the channel where you publish your content on, or where you're amplifying your content on. And how does that influence your message architecture? we always think about message architecture, and then we tailor it to a specific channel that we want our content to be transmitted through. And the last but not the least, it's the form. And this answers your question, Roland, because we experiment with the form. So we publish our content as blog pieces, as thought leadership content, as pictures, audios, podcasts, white papers, research notes, etc., tons of different formats, and we are not afraid to experiment.
Yeah, very often we get questions which are quite simple and straightforward, like which channel to use. Should I use Facebook or should I use LinkedIn, or maybe should I post videos or Instagram, and then TikTok is a rising channel. So what's your take currently? What works for Ciklum? Or if you were, let's say, in shoes of startup founder, which channels would you prioritize?
Great question. Of course, the channels would be different depending on whether you're B2C or B2B market. But the main do from me here would be your audience. Your content should be relevant and up to date, and you should transmit it to the channels not you prefer, but your audience prefer. So you have to research where is your audience. So be your audience, and then transmit your message to the places where your audience is. And that
And
will
I
be
think
the
it,
channel.
yeah,
Okay, but
I
will
would
you-
just add that probably experimenting. This is the key in digital marketing today. You cannot really expect that you did it once and you just do not change anything. As Olga said, so you have to try, you have to actually measure, and then based on this information, decide where to maybe optimize and focus. And I think, yeah.
Yeah, Roland's asked about a startup, or let's imagine an SMB company somewhere in the CS region where you guys also operate, right? So suppose you're an SMB company who wants to take the most of the content, and probably you do not have your in-house marketing team. So there are different options, and there are different questions: where to publish your content, what is the form of the content, etc. So the good news is that you can constantly align your strategy to your goals, and you can constantly change it or keep working on it based on your reflection. What did work good and what did not? So
Yes.
experiment. Don't be afraid to experiment with the forms, factors, and channels. And the amount of data on the web actually doubles from year to year. And probably the main advice here would be, don't wait until your customers search or navigate through your website. Make sure you create content and you deliver content to the places where you can meet your audience. And then it will have a huge impact.
Okay, but let me ask you this. I mean, I imagine, and you in fact told that you are producing quite a lot of different types of contacts, different content, different channels, and so on. How do you measure success? How do you know that it's really working? Is it the number of leads you generate, or the number of engagement, like shares? Can you talk about that a bit?
Rumor has it that sometimes C-level people undervaluate marketeers because they think that there is no proper marketing measurement. Guys, there are numbers, there is stats that can prove the actions of your marketing team.
Yes.
If we speak about Ciklum, and as I mentioned, we experiment with different forms and channels for our content. During last 6 months, the average click-through rate, or CTR, increased up to 120% in comparison with the last half a year.
That's
and if
impressive.
we speak about subscribers, for example, also, I was checking the stats a couple of days ago. We have 291, so almost 300% of subscribers increase within last half a year, which also shows and proves that our content strategy is working, because we are using different formats. Our thought leadership content from our industry experts and technological leaders is outstanding. We also create a news break from every action that we do. For example, we recently participated in Gartner Application Innovation Summit, which is a technological flagship event. We're going to participate in some others like London Tech Week, for example, or other flagship industry regional events. Those events are also news breaks, so use it, leverage it. We shoot teasers about the events. We are inviting engaging people. What else we do? We publish key learnings after each event. So we make lots of content around one event, so to say. And the last but not least, I wanted to say that we speak about humanity. And I know that you can comment on this quite a lot because, for example, if we take technological leaders and giants like Microsoft, Google, and Amazon, they usually speak very complex language full of acronyms and abbreviations that people do not understand.
Very true, very true.
You're hitting the right point. That's very true.
That's what we avoid to do, and we try to speak human language. Of course, unless it's the deep technical content, then there is no other way. But for business, we speak human to human language, and that's very important. And we launched several integrated campaigns. For example, She Did It, which was dedicated to the celebration of International Women's Day, where we showed up the stories of real women from Pakistan, from Poland, from Ukraine, from other countries. And the one which I like the most because I was orchestrating it was this Thank You for a Year Like No Other with Ciklum, which was dedicated to expressing the gratitude to our customers for joint achievements during the pandemic year. People see people behind the content, and that's builds trust and credibility, and that's the most important thing nowadays.
You sorry, you mentioned one super important thing, which is something I cannot not ask you questions about. So you mentioned your click-through rate increased by 120%. So you had some kind of internal event or big learning or did something differently. So what did you did differently so that you had these improvements in how your content is perceived and engagement on that? What changed?
So basically, as I mentioned, we started to speak more human language.
And
All right. We started to experiment with the forms because people nowadays are kept glued to their screen and devices, and they became blinded. They see flashes from everywhere, so we had to be very creative to make sure that our content is outstanding amongst tons of the posts they see in their social media. Of course, we also post a lot of case studies because no matter how cool and interactive and beautiful your content is, you always have to showcase your work and then second your words with deeds. That's what we do. And we show the success stories, and it made our customers happy, and then we're also happy. And we see the click-through rate increase because the engagement was very high, because people read, shared, reposted, and downloaded our content as well.
Okay, and Andres, you go now.
Sorry for interrupting you. No, what I wanted, because I think this is a very good discussion. However, again, considering that we have very different people, listening to us or watching to us, also not from so big companies. And what I would like to us to think, maybe what we could propose them to do as a first step in terms of, starting with their content strategy. And you mentioned that you're experimenting with different forms, you're experimenting with different types of content. But imagine again, this is like an average IT company or technology company with maybe a few people in the organization, maybe with no even marketing within this organization, where they should start. So what they can do immediately now today. So I imagine that there is already something what they can consider as a good content. For instance, a customer story, customer case study, something they can share with others about how some other company has solved certain issues or certain problems with help of technology or services, and so on. So that's typically one of the content types what is also working very, very nicely, right? Anything else you guys would like to mention maybe here, very practically?
I wish there would be a, I don't know, a pill that you can grasp and that would solve all the issues. But basically, not to overcomplicate, there is a formula of the content. Again, remember that content is relevant information within given context that has a form, shape, but the medium through which it's transmitted. So make sure your content is interesting, relevant, and it correlates with the demand of the audience. So start with the audience analysis, understand who they are, where they are, and what problem you can solve. And then create content not based on your preferences, but based on what your audience wants to hear. And also leverage the examples of big companies. I partly shared how we do it in Ciklum. I assume internet allows us to check and to browse through networks. Try to find some paradigm or some schemes and just experiment. If you're a small company without in-house marketing, trust me, small marketing teams can do perfect things. We are a team of 8 people at Ciklum, working on the content, of course, engaging lots of agencies, but still orchestrating everything on our own. But remember, there are lots of tools where you can go and engage specialists you don't have in-house per project. For example, you need some SEO optimization or content creation or copyright or translation and localization services. There are tools like I Can Localize or Upwork. So you engage the person, receive services, and then pay.
Yes.
Experiment and don't be afraid.
Yeah, certainly there are a lot of tools today and
even content
options and content available. That is exactly what I also wanted to mention. Thank you for reminding, Roland. We had actually some projects where we work with companies who doesn't have any single marketing person in-house. They are very technically focused. They are very deep into certain area of technology and services. But at the same time, they just involve external specialists to help them with the marketing, and that is one of the ways how you can be very professional and very, very, very quick and cost efficient. Another thing is just leverage the content what you already have, case studies with your customers. I know that many companies nowadays run webinars. So this is a great source of the content as well. So webinar itself, then the recording of the webinar, then you can split it to the several pieces, highlights, transform it to the blog post,
slides,
to something, slides, whatever else. So that's just, you produce it kind of once, but then you can repurpose it to different channels, different forms, and see what works better for your clients. And I also wanted to say that executing good content strategy doesn't necessarily require huge budgets behind that. So as I said, it can start just with few hundreds of euro monthly, what you invest, and then leverage either internal or external or mix of both resources to execute step by step and position yourself in front of your customers.
Absolutely. I fully support you, Andres, here. There is such thing as content life cycle. And here at Ciklum, we're using our content in different formats and shapes. When you produce a great piece of content, let's say, not necessarily in industry research, but a white paper, case study, you can use it in different ways and options, and make sure you do it, because sometimes even small companies produce really great content. They invest their funds, marketing dollars into the content, but they use it only once. Leverage it. You can do it.
Yeah.
Yes, and I wanted to share a very simple like a shortcut, and it works very well for tech companies who are building their solution on, let's say, vendor, let's say on Microsoft technologies or Citrix technologies or something. And the trick is just try to see what kind of content vendor is providing. And it's quite possible that you can get already written white paper or a case study, perhaps even localized to your language, which you can use for lead generation campaign. And such campaign, in terms of costs, we once were sitting with Andres and calculating in office, actually can cost as little as few or several hundreds euros. And already you can start generating a stream of incoming leads.
That's very true. So I think it was a very good discussion. I hope also our audience liked it. I don't know if you have any questions from the audience or any comments and insights. Roland, have you noticed anything?
It looks we don't have, but then I also have a feeling that LinkedIn has perhaps changed something slightly with the interface of the events, because usually we have questions and comments, and not sure why it's not the case today.
We were very clear.
Yeah, nevertheless, I would like, first of all, to thank you, Olga, for being with us. Secondly, I would like also to mention that there will be a separate piece of content, 5 tips to make your content work, for starting today by Olga. Actually, we will share it right after the event and share it on our LinkedIn profile. So therefore, I would like to invite you to follow IBD Consulting and Fry Talks on LinkedIn, and also, join us in a couple of weeks for another Fry Talk, and subscribe to our podcast.
Yes, and please like, share, and comment our Fry Talk videos, because that would really provide, first of all, us a good feedback and motivation to continue, and second, it would help other people to learn about this how to call it, livecast, webcast that we are trying to make for all B2B marketers and salespeople.
Thank you for invitation, and we'll be happy to reply all the questions if they arise a bit later. Thank you. Bye.
Thank
Yes,
you, Olga.
thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
guys.
Olga. Bye.